Somebody in the comments section asked if there would be a Uncle Albert part two. Now, uh, my mother used to talk to her friend all the time, and my mother would convey certain stories. And I felt bad for the guy. He was just so stubborn. And I think a lot of it was he realized he wasn't that smart. I don't know what the reason was, but anyway, I'm sitting in there eating dinner, and my father and me sat at the end of the table, the ends, and we faced each other. And my mother goes, "You won't believe what happened to Albert." And my father's just like, "Why wouldn't I believe it?" So anyway, here's what happened. Uh, Albert's father was tuning up the car, and I don't know if you've ever done it. You tune up a car, you change the points, and if you really do it right, you change the points, the condenser. This is years ago. Points, condenser, uh, filter in the carburetor, air cleaner, and let me think. Is there anything else? Oh, spark plugs. All right. So anyway, you change all that. Now you got to tune the car up. Now in my case, I had a Heathkit diagnostic thing. It was real simple. You had a pair of clip leads, and you put them across the coil. When you crank the car, it only took for like two cranks, and the voltage would come up off the coil and go in and energize the circuit board. And then it would then switch into where it's going to analyze the pulses coming in. So you crank the car a few times, and in a Chevy, you have a window you open up. You lift up on the distributor, and you could stick a tool in there. And that was for the points. You could set the that would be the dwell. The way you would set them was the time it would go on and off, like a square wave. You wanted at a certain dwell amount. And then you had another wrench that went down, and it was like an L-shaped wrench. It went down, and you would undo the nut, and you would rotate the distributor, and you had a timing light. And in my case, I had a special crayon that you'd put in. You'd put in the on the flywheel of the car. It had a little groove in it. You'd put the crayon marking in that groove, and it was like fluorescent. And then on the timing unit itself, on the be the chassis, not the chassis, be the motor on the motor itself, be like the scale, and you'd top dead center, whatever. You go in there and you put the crayon in the mark you wanted. Now you turn the car on and you run it, and then you start turning the distributor, and the light is flashing. It's a timing light. It's flashing, and it looks like that mark is in the scale down in the engine. And then you rotate the distributor. Now you're so many top dead center. I think California, it had to be a larger amount so you'd have less pollution. All right, so that's what you do. And then at some point, when you set the dwell and all that, once you get it close, you then reset it. And some people would just put a matchbook between the points and then do it that way instead of using a feeler gauge. I used the Heathkit. So you want to run the car at when you really finish it up and do it right, you put somebody in the car and they rev it up to so many RPMs. You tell them what you're seeing on the RPMs. They have their foot on the brake on the car, and the car's in gear. You put it in gear. So that's when you really do a real good tune-up. And then the car, over a few days, when you first put the air cleaner in, the car is not being choked that much. So the car will start running better in about a week. That's because the air cleaner starts getting clogged, and then you're using more fuel. So a lot of people would tell you on the tune-up that it'll get better over the next few days. Well, what's actually happening is the soot in the air and all of New Jersey starts clogging the air cleaner. You start using more fuel, but the car runs smoother and it doesn't stall on you. So, but anyway, when you're doing the tune-up, you put a guy in the car, and he puts the car into gear, and you set the idle of the car. After the car warms up, you want the idle set. So when you pull up to a light and you put your car in neutral, um, or whatever, and you want it to idle at a certain amount of RPMs. So Albert and his father are out there doing the car, and Albert's father goes, "I'll get in the car," and Albert goes, "No, you don't have to do that. Watch." He goes, "You put the foot brake on in the car, right? The emergency brake. You put the car in gear. You go out in front of the car. Does this sound bad already? You go out in front of the car, and you take the accelerator out there by the carburetor. You move that up to so many RPMs, and then you adjust your timing and all that under load, and you get your RPMs that way." Well, the father was like, "Really?" And, "Oh no, this is the way everybody's doing it." All right. So anyway, Albert goes out and he goes in front of the car, and as soon as he hits the accelerator, you're under the car, you're next to the carburetor. The accelerator line comes up. It's a cable that comes up it by the carburetor, and as soon as he moves it forward to accelerate to get the right RPMs, the car takes off. It almost runs his father over, runs his foot over. Oh, well, somebody's foot got ran over. I don't remember whose foot it was. But now the car is driving slowly down the street. And of course, when it took off, the door closed. And they're running after the car. Car is going down the street, not real fast, but it hits one car on the right. It crosses over, hits a car on the left, crosses back over. It went down the street going back and forth hitting cars. 6 cars, 10 cars, whatever it was. At that point, I'm sitting there eating. Me and my father, we're not listening anymore. This is a typical Albert story. And the father knew better, but he kept thinking, my son's an engineer. And he was. He had the degree. He passed all the tests. But no real logic. Now, I know people that have done other stupid things like that. And I caught them on it. And they don't like that. But I just want to tell you, this person says, yeah, there's other Albert stories, but it's after a while when you realize somebody has a problem and they're real stubborn and they're stupid, they're dangerous. They say stupid people kill more people than all the wars, and the other one is religion kills more people. What is it? Well, anyway, religion kills a lot of people, but in other words, stupid people going around doing stupid things leave something that someone else comes along and steps on and gets electrocuted. They go watch the videos on YouTube. But Albert did have a part 2, and he had other things he did. I don't want to give too much because then the family might figure out that it's their Albert. But anyway, yeah, we're sitting there at dinner time, and my mother goes, as soon as he mentioned Albert, I'm like, here we go. And I always had a lot of respect for the guy because he did go through NJIT. He did take the test. He scored really well, but he was the type of person that could read stuff and regurgitate it. When he had to really think about doing it or that, it didn't happen. And the tests, a lot of engineering tests back when I was in school and in college, and they used to give you steam boiler formulas, how thick the boiler was, how big and you had to do all these formulas to figure out how many psi of steam that boiler could take. And there's stuff like that. And that's what you needed to know how to do to get an engineering degree. But in the real world, there's a lot of dangers. And some people don't put the two together, and they mess up. And after a while, they sort of disappear. We had technicians that after they screwed up a few times, you'd come in on a Monday and they weren't there anymore. And you'd say something to the boss. He'd just give you that look like it was time for him to leave. But yeah, poor Albert. I always think, every time I hear that song by the Beatles, "We're so sorry, Uncle Albert," I think of him right away. I do. He was a little bit older than me, so he was cousin Albert, but he wasn't really a cousin. He was my mother's best friend's son, and he was a twin. He had a twin sister, and the whole thing. Oh, and Albert had tools. If you went down into the basement or in his house, um, he had all these tools, beautiful tools hanging up on a pegboard. And if you touched any of them in front of you, he would take it down, and then he had a cloth that had oil in it, which you're not supposed to keep in a house. You can burn a house down that way, spontaneous combustion. And he he would wipe it down in front of you and put it back up. And that when he did that to my father one day, my dad went down and basically picked up something and said, "Oh, you got a brown and sharp thing," but and he pulled it down from the pen, and Albert took it out of his hand and wiped it down and put it back. And my father said that was so rude. And I said, he's got something wrong with him. And my father says it was still rude. I think that's it. All right, that's it.